Derek Stone's grip tightened around the warm pizza box as three predators in dark suits circled table 7 like vultures. The blonde woman's hands trembled against the red vinyl booth. Her blue eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Time to pay up, sweetheart," the scarred man's voice cut through the diner's hum. "Your daddy's debt won't disappear by itself." She shrank back. "Please, I don't have—" "Save it." He grabbed her collar. "Wrong excuse, wrong day, sweetheart." Derek's boots scraped linoleum. 8 years of grease-stained coveralls, 8 years of silence, 8 years of being just another small-town mechanic. But tonight was different. He approached their table with the measured steps of a man who'd forgotten nothing. "Excuse me, gentlemen." Ice crystallized in his voice. "I believe you gentlemen are sitting at the wrong table." The scarred man's sneer faltered as he met Derek's eyes. "Wrong table, wrong day, gentlemen." What the loan sharks didn't know would change everything. The fluorescent lights above table 7 cast harsh shadows across weathered faces. Derek set his pizza box on the adjacent table with deliberate care. His movements carried the precision of someone accustomed to working with dangerous machinery. Or dangerous men. "Your table?" The scarred man's laugh scraped like sandpaper. "I don't see no reservation sign, buddy." His companions shifted in their seats, expensive fabric rustling against cheap vinyl. The diner's usual Friday night chatter had died to whispers. Even Jenny, the waitress, pressed herself against the coffee station, her knuckles white around a dish rag. "Table 7. Derek's voice remained level as Winter Lake ice. "I come here every Friday. Same time, same table. Ask Jenny." He gestured toward the trembling waitress, without breaking eye contact with the scarred man. The woman they called Mia looked up at Derek with desperate hope flickering in her cornflower blue eyes. Something familiar stirred in those depths, like a half-remembered melody from another life. Her blonde hair caught the harsh light, but her brown roots showed through. Recent dye job, running from something, or someone. "Jenny?" The scarred man's voice carried the weight of implied threat. The waitress swallowed hard, her Adam's apple bobbing like a cork in rough water. He's right. Derek always sits there, every Friday for 5 years. Same order, same table, same tip. Her loyalty surprised Derek. In his experience, people rarely stuck their necks out for strangers. But Cedar Falls wasn't Chicago. Here, a mechanic who fixed your car for fair wages and never asked questions earned respect, even from frightened waitresses who'd seen too much of the world's ugly side. The scarred man studied Derek with new interest. Prison tattoos peeked from beneath his shirt cuffs. Gang affiliations Derek recognized from another life. "Look, pal, this is family business. Walk away before you get hurt." His 2 companions flanked him like trained attack dogs. The younger one's hand drifted toward his jacket. Amateur move. Derek catalogued the positioning, the angles, the exits. Old habits died hard. Some never died at all. The diner's bell chimed as the last customer hurried out into the Iowa night. "Family?" Derek's gaze shifted to Mia. Mascara streaked her cheeks like war paint. "Doesn't look like family to me. Looks like 3 grown men intimidating a young woman." Mia started to rise, her chair scraping against the floor. "I should go. I don't want anyone getting hurt because of me." Her voice carried an accent Derek couldn't place. Not local. East Coast, maybe. Money in her background, judging by her posture and the way she held her hands. Even terrified, she maintained a certain dignity that spoke of breeding. Or training. "Sit down!" The scarred man's control began to crack. "We ain't done talking." His meaty hand slammed against the table, making the salt and pepper shakers jump. Derek stepped closer, his movement fluid and purposeful. "Actually, you are." The temperature in the diner seemed to drop 10 degrees. "The lady wants to leave, so you're gonna let her." The familiar weight of authority settled into his voice like an old coat. It had been 5 years since he'd worn that particular mantle. 5 years since Patrick Murphy had died and Derek Stone had been born from the ashes. The scarred man pushed back from the table, his chair clattering. 6 feet 2 inches, maybe 220 pounds of muscle wrapped in expensive wool. Derek catalogued the details automatically. The slight favor of the man's left leg. Old injury, the way his right shoulder dipped. Dominant hand, but compromised reach. Or what, grease monkey? Spittle flew from scarred lips. Derek calmly removed his work jacket, folding it with precise movements. The Semper Fi tattoo on his right forearm caught the light. Marine Corps Eagle. 15 years of service condensed into black ink and bad memories. The diner fell silent except for the hum of the ice machine and the distant rumble of semi-trucks on Highway 20. Derek's hands remained loose at his sides, but his stance shifted subtly. Weight balanced. Ready. Or I'll make you. The words carried no heat, no anger, just certainty, like gravity or sunrise. Inevitable. The scarred man's confidence wavered as he recognized something predatory in Derek's stillness. His younger companion whispered urgently, "Boss, something about this guy. The way he moves." Recognition flickered in experienced eyes. They'd seen men like Derek before, in places where such men meant business. "You military?" The third man spoke for the first time, his voice careful and respectful. Derek's smile held no warmth. Was. Long time ago. But not long enough to forget. Never long enough for that. Mia watched the exchange with growing fascination. Her tears had stopped, replaced by calculation. This wasn't the reaction of a simple victim. Derek filed that observation away. "Thank you," she said quietly. "But I don't want anyone getting hurt because of me." Her concern seemed genuine. Almost. But Derek had learned to distrust almost. The scarred man regained some bluster, but it rang hollow now. "Too late for that, sweetheart. Daddy's debt doesn't just disappear." Derek's interest sharpened. "What debt?" Mia's composure cracked slightly. "My father borrowed money for my mother's cancer treatment. He died in a car accident 2 months ago before he could pay it back." Her story sounded rehearsed, polished, the kind of story someone told when the truth was too dangerous. Derek had told similar lies once upon a time. 20 grand plus interest, the scarred man added with malicious satisfaction. "Makes it 30 now." Derek turned to Mia, studying her face in the harsh fluorescent light. "You got $30,000? She shook her head, fresh tears starting. "I'm just a receptionist at the dental office. I barely make rent." Truth and lies wove together like thread in a tapestry. Derek could see both, but not the pattern. Not yet. "Then we have a problem." The scarred man leaned forward eagerly. "Only problem is you sticking your nose where it don't belong." Derek's smile turned predatory. "Actually, the problem is you thinking intimidation works in my town." The words hung in the air like smoke from a gun barrel. My town. Derek hadn't meant to say that. Hadn't claimed anything in 5 years except a parking space at Miller's Garage and a corner booth at Maple Creek Diner. The scarred man caught the slip, his eyes narrowing. "Your town? You're just some grease monkey, pal." Derek picked up his pizza box, the cardboard warm against his palms. "Maybe." He looked at Mia directly. "Would you like to join me for dinner? Pizza's still hot." Her eyes widened with surprise and something that might have been relief. Yes, thank you." As they prepared to leave, the scarred man grabbed Derek's shoulder. The contact sent electricity through Derek's nervous system. Training older than his marriage, older than fatherhood, older than his carefully constructed new identity, surged to the surface. "This ain't over." Derek looked down at the hand on his shoulder, then met the scarred man's eyes. The temperature dropped another 10 degrees. "Remove your hand, now!" 4 words that carried the weight of absolute authority. The scarred man's hand fell away as if burned. Some instincts transcended conscious thought. Even thugs recognized apex predators when they met them. Outside, Derek's pickup truck sat under a flickering streetlight like a faithful dog. The November air bit sharp and clean after the diner's grease-heavy atmosphere. Mia struggled with her Honda Civic, the engine turning over without catching. Derek counted 5 attempts before approaching. "Need a ride?" He kept his distance, close enough to help, far enough to avoid seeming threatening. Years of dealing with his daughter's frightened friends had taught him the delicate dance of appearing safe. Before Ashley died, before his world collapsed into a bottle of whiskey and a one-way ticket to nowhere. "I don't want to involve you more." Mia's voice shook with more than cold. Click, click. Nothing. The Civic's battery was dying, taking her options with it. "Too late." Derek opened his passenger door. "They know I helped you. Hop in." She hesitated, weighing risks in the mathematics of survival. Finally, desperation won. She slid into the pickup's worn leather seat, her movements graceful despite her fear. The truck smelled like motor oil and pine air freshener. Honest smells. Working man smells. A photograph of a young boy in a baseball uniform smiled from the dashboard. "Your son?" Mia's voice softened as she studied the picture. Lucas at 8, gap-toothed and fearless, grass stains on his knees and joy in his eyes. "Lucas, he's 8. Derek started the engine, the V8 rumbling to life with mechanical satisfaction. "Where to?" Mia gave him an address on Oak Street, the kind of neighborhood where people minded their own business, and landlords didn't ask too many questions. The truck pulled away from the diner, leaving the 3 men silhouetted in yellow light like actors on a stage. Derek checked his mirrors out of habit. No tail yet, but there would be. The drive through Cedar Falls took them past sleeping houses and empty storefronts. Friday night in small-town Iowa meant high school football games and family dinners, not loan sharks and mystery women. Derek navigated the familiar streets with unconscious ease, his mind working on the problem Mia represented. "Can I ask you something?" Her voice broke the comfortable silence. He turned left on Maple Street, past the hardware store, where he bought his morning coffee, and the library where Lucas spent Saturday mornings lost in adventure books. Normal places, safe places, the kind of places Patrick Murphy had never known existed. "Why did you help me? You don't even know me." The question Derek had been asking himself since he stood up in the diner. The honest answer was complicated. The simple answer was enough for now. Had a daughter once. Would have wanted someone to help her if she was in trouble. Past tense. Always past tense now. Mia caught the pain he tried to hide. "Had?" Derek's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. "Car accident, 5 years ago. She was 16. The words came out flat and emotionless, like reading from a police report, which in a way he was. Some reports you memorized, some you carried forever. Oak Street Apartments appeared ahead, a collection of tired buildings that had seen better decades. Derek pulled up to Building C, the truck's headlights illuminating peeling paint and broken concrete. Mia didn't get out immediately. Instead, she turned to face him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "Derek, those men tonight, they're not just loan sharks, they work for Vincent Torino." The name hit Derek like a punch to the solar plexus. His hands stilled on the steering wheel. Every muscle in his body went taut. "Torino." His voice sounded normal. Years of practice had taught him to school his reactions. But inside, Patrick Murphy was clawing his way back to the surface. "You know the name?" Of course he knew the name. Everyone in 3 states knew that name. Vincent Torino was Chicago royalty of the worst kind. Old money built on new corpses. "Why didn't you mention this earlier?" Derek's training reasserted itself. Always ask the next question. Always dig deeper. Trust was a luxury he couldn't afford, especially not with Vincent Torino's name in play. Mia bit her lower lip, a gesture that seemed younger than her years. "Because I was hoping they'd give up. But Vincent doesn't give up. Ever." Truth. Derek could hear it in her voice, see it in the way her shoulders sagged with exhaustion. But truth was a relative concept in Vincent Torino's world. Derek studied her face in the dim streetlight, cataloguing details the way he'd once catalogued crime scenes. The slight tremor in her hands, the way she held herself, the expensive dental work visible when she spoke. Vincent Torino's girls usually showed signs of their association. Mia showed different signs entirely. "What aren't you telling me?" The question hung between them like a challenge. Mia opened the truck door, cold air rushing in. "The less you know, the safer you'll be." Another truth, but incomplete. Derek had spent 15 years incomplete truths. He recognized the species. "Mia!" His voice stopped her halfway out of the truck. She turned back, her blonde hair catching the streetlight like spun gold. "If you're in real trouble, I might be able to help." The offer surprised him. Derek Stone fixed transmissions and changed oil. He went home to his trailer and helped his son with homework. He didn't volunteer for other people's wars, but Patrick Murphy had made that offer before, to informants and witnesses and frightened young women who'd seen too much. Old habits were like old scars. They never completely faded. "You're a mechanic in a small town. This is Chicago mob money." Derek met her eyes directly. "I wasn't always a mechanic." Something flickered across her face. Recognition? Fear? Hope? What were you? The question every man with a past dreaded. The question that peeled back carefully, constructed lies, and revealed the person underneath. Derek considered his answer carefully. How much truth was too much? How much was not enough? Someone who knew how to handle problems like Vincent Torino. Mia stared at him for a long moment, her blue eyes searching his face for answers he wasn't ready to give. Finally, she nodded once and stepped out into the cold Iowa night. Derek watched her climb the stairs to her apartment, noting which lights came on, which remained dark. Professional surveillance disguised as neighborly concern. When her door closed, he pulled out his cell phone and stared at the blank screen. He could call Rodriguez at the bureau. Catherine would remember him, probably wondered what had happened to Patrick Murphy. But calling Rodriguez meant admitting Derek Stone was a lie, meant dragging Lucas into a world the boy had never known existed, meant becoming Patrick Murphy again. The phone stayed silent. Some doors, once closed, should stay closed. The drive back to his trailer park took him past the high school where Lucas played Little League, past the grocery store where Derek bought their weekly supplies, past all the ordinary landmarks of his carefully ordinary life. Cedar Falls slept peacefully around him, unaware that Vincent Torino's shadow had fallen across their quiet streets. Derek parked beside his trailer and sat in the darkness, engine ticking as it cooled. Through the thin walls he could hear Lucas's television playing softly. Batman cartoons, probably. The boy loved superheroes, men who fought evil and always won. If only real life were that simple. His phone buzzed against his leg. Unknown number. Derek stared at the screen for 3 rings before answering. Stone. Professional habit made him use his last name, even though most of Cedar Falls knew him as Derek the mechanic who lived in Trailer 47 with his quiet boy. "Heard you had an interesting evening." The voice was male, middle-aged, with the kind of Chicago accent that spoke of old neighborhoods and older grudges. Not one of the three from the diner. Someone higher up the food chain. Derek's blood cooled another degree. Who's this? Someone who knows Mia Reeves isn't who she claims to be. The line crackled with interstate static. Derek sat up straighter, his free hand instinctively checking the 9mm he kept under his truck's seat. Old habits. Meaning? The caller chuckled, a sound like gravel in a cement mixer. Meaning her daddy didn't just borrow money for medical bills. James Reeves was Vincent's accountant. 20 million went missing from Vincent's books before James took his little car ride. The line went dead, leaving Derek alone with the silence and the implications. $20 million, not 20,000. The kind of money that bought bullets and shallow graves. Derek sat in his truck until the dashboard clock read 2 a.m., thinking about blonde women and missing money and the way Mia's eyes had changed when she mentioned Vincent Torino. Professional killers didn't chase 20,000 in medical debt across 3 states. They chased 20 million, which meant Mia was either the most dangerous woman in Iowa or the most endangered. Possibly both. Finally, he climbed out of the truck and walked to his trailer, boots crunching on gravel. Lucas's television had gone quiet hours ago. The boy slept the deep sleep of innocence, untroubled by loan sharks and missing millions. Derek envied him that peace. Saturday morning arrived with the smell of coffee and the sound of small feet running down the trailer's narrow hallway. Derek woke to Lucas bouncing on the end of his bed, already dressed in his baseball uniform. Dad, you gotta get up. Coach Martinez wants us there early for practice. Derek squinted at his alarm clock. 6:30 a.m. on a Saturday. The price of fatherhood. All right, buddy. Give me 5 minutes. Lucas grinned and raced back toward the kitchen, where Derek could hear him attempting to pour cereal without making a mess. The normal sounds of normal life. Derek clung to them like a life preserver in rough seas. 20 minutes later, they were heading toward the high school baseball diamond in Derek's pickup. Lucas chatted about batting averages and stolen bases, while Derek's mind worked on more serious problems. How long before Vincent Torino's people found Mia's real address? How long before they connected Derek Stone to Patrick Murphy? How long before his carefully constructed life exploded into 1,000 pieces? Lucas's voice brought him back to the present. Dad? You're not listening. Derek glanced at his son in the rearview mirror. Sorry, buddy. Just thinking about work. The lie came easily, too easily. Can we get breakfast at the diner after practice? Lucas's request hit Derek like a physical blow. Return to Maple Creek Diner? Where Vincent Torino's soldiers might be waiting. Where Jenny the waitress had seen Derek Stone become someone else entirely. Maybe somewhere else today, kiddo. How about that new pancake place on 5th Street? Lucas's face fell slightly, but he nodded. The diner had been their Saturday tradition for 2 years, another small piece of normal life chipped away by the past. Derek pushed down his anger. He'd chosen this path 5 years ago. He'd known the price. At the baseball field, Derek took his usual spot in the bleachers with the other parents. Soccer moms and factory workers, teachers and shop owners. The backbone of small-town America. They nodded their greetings, including him in their casual conversations about weekend plans and school fundraisers. Derek Stone belonged here. Patrick Murphy never had. On the field, Lucas connected with a fastball and sent it sailing toward the fence. The boy rounded first base with pure joy on his face, exactly like his sister had at that age. Before Derek lost her. Before he lost everything that mattered and found himself in Cedar Falls, Iowa, pretending to be someone else. His phone vibrated against his ribs. Text message from an unknown number. Derek opened it with growing dread. A photograph of Lucas at bat, taken from the parking lot behind the bleachers. The timestamp showed 30 seconds ago. Derek's head snapped up, scanning the cars and trees and shadows where a sniper might hide. Nothing obvious. But that meant nothing. Professional surveillance was invisible until it wanted to be seen. A second text arrived. "Beautiful family. Would hate for anything to happen to them." Derek's blood turned to ice water. They'd found Lucas. Somehow Vincent Torino's people had connected Derek Stone to Patrick Murphy and located the one thing in the world he cared about more than life itself. Derek forced himself to remain seated, to keep breathing normally, to not grab Lucas and run. Running would confirm their suspicions. Running would make them pray. Instead, he typed a careful response. "What do you want?" The reply came immediately. "The girl and our money. Both disappear. Your boy keeps playing baseball." Simple mathematics. Mia's life against Lucas's safety. $20 million against 8 years of Saturday morning baseball games. Derek stared at his son's laughing face and felt his carefully constructed world crumbling around him. Some choices destroyed you regardless of what you chose. Practice ended with Coach Martinez gathering the team for next week's schedule. Derek walked onto the field with the other parents, his smile feeling painted on. He ruffled Lucas's hair and listened to the boy's excited recap of his batting performance. Normal father-son interaction under the weight of impossible circumstances. "Great hit, kiddo. I'm proud of you." Lucas beamed at the praise, grass stains on his knees and dirt under his fingernails. Perfect childhood evidence that Derek would do anything to preserve, even if it cost him his soul. Again. The drive home took them past Oak Street apartments. Derek slowed as they passed Building C, noting the black sedan parked across the street. Professional surveillance, poorly concealed. Either Vincent's people wanted to be seen, or they were sending a message. Both possibilities worried him. "Dad, why are we going this way?" Lucas asked from the passenger seat, his glove balanced on his knees. Derek turned right, taking the long way home. "Just wanted to check something at the parts store." Another lie. He was becoming quite accomplished at lying to his son. The skill made him hate himself a little more. At the trailer park, Derek helped Lucas with his Saturday chores, while his mind worked on the problem of Mia Reeves and $20 million. Washing dishes became an exercise in tactical thinking. If Vincent's people had Lucas under surveillance, they knew Derek's schedule, his habits, his vulnerabilities. They knew exactly how to apply pressure. The smart play was to give them what they wanted. Turn Mia over, let Vincent recover his money, go back to being Derek Stone, the mechanic. The safe play. The survival play. The play Patrick Murphy would never have made. At 6:30 Saturday evening, Derek heard a soft knock on his trailer door. Lucas was in his room, building something complicated with Legos. Derek peered through the window and saw Mia standing on his small porch, a duffel bag slung over her shoulder and fear etched in every line of her body. Her Honda Civic was nowhere in sight. She'd walked here, or taken a cab, or stolen a car. All of which meant her situation had deteriorated rapidly. Derek opened the door and stepped aside. "They burned down my apartment last night." Her voice was steady, but her hands shook as she entered his trailer. "Everything's gone." Derek locked the door behind her, his mind already working on defensive positions and exit strategies. "Where's your car?" Mia set her duffel bag on the floor with the care of someone whose remaining possessions fit in one bag. "Towed for parking violations." She made air quotes around the last 2 words. Derek poured coffee with steady hands while calculating odds and variables. Vincent Torino was escalating. Burned apartments and disappeared cars meant the negotiation phase was over. "I need help, Derek. Real help." The words hung between them like a bridge over an abyss. Cross it, and there was no going back. Stay safe, and watch her die. Lucas emerged from his room, Lego spaceship in hand and curiosity in his eyes. "Dad? Who's the lady?" Derek felt the last pieces of his normal life crumbling. "This is Mia, buddy. She's a friend who needs help. Lucas studied Mia with the frank assessment of childhood. Are you staying for dinner? Dad makes really good grilled cheese. Mia looked between father and son, something breaking in her expression. I don't want to impose. Lucas shook his head seriously. Dad always says we help people who need help. Right, Dad? 8-year-old wisdom that cut straight to the heart of everything. Derek met Mia's eyes over his son's head. That's right, son. Dinner was grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup, simple food made complicated by the weight of unspoken truths. Lucas chatted about school and baseball, while Derek and Mia navigated the careful dance of people with dangerous secrets. She was good with children, Derek noticed. Patient with Lucas's questions, interested in his stories, natural in a way that suggested experience. Either she was a gifted actress, or there were layers to Mia Reeves that he hadn't seen yet. Both possibilities concerned him. Trust was a luxury he couldn't afford. Not with Lucas's safety in the balance. After Lucas went to bed, Derek and Mia sat at his small kitchen table in the kind of silence that pressed against the walls. Finally, she spoke. I got a call last night. Someone who knows about my father. And the missing 20 million. Derek's coffee mug stopped halfway to his lips. She knew about the money. Which meant she'd been lying about the medical debt, the receptionist job, the innocent victim routine. The person on the phone said James Reeves was Vincent's accountant, said money went missing before he died. Derek studied her face in the trailer's fluorescent light. I don't know what you're talking about. The lie sounded hollow, even to her. Derek leaned back in his chair, suddenly very tired. Mia, I know you're lying. Question is why? Tears welled in her eyes, but he'd seen professional tears before. Real ones, too. The difference was subtle but unmistakable. These seemed real. Because if I tell you the truth, they'll kill you. And your son. The truth, finally. Or part of it. Derek glanced toward Lucas's bedroom, where his son slept surrounded by baseball posters and action figures. Normal 8-year-old things. Then we have a problem, because they're already threatening Lucas. Derek showed her the photograph on his phone. Mia went pale, her hands flying to her mouth. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. Her distress seemed genuine, but Derek had learned not to trust first impressions, especially not with $20 million in play. What aren't you telling me? The question hung between them like a loaded gun. Mia looked toward Lucas's room, then back at Derek. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. My real name isn't Mia Reeves. Derek felt the world shift beneath him. What is it? She took a shaking breath and met his eyes. Ashley Stone. The name hit Derek like a sledgehammer to the chest. His coffee mug fell from nerveless fingers, shattering against the linoleum floor. Coffee spread in a dark pool, but Derek didn't notice. He couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what he'd just heard. Ashley. His daughter's name. His dead daughter's name. That's impossible. The words came out strangled, barely human. Ashley died in the accident. I saw the car. But he hadn't seen bodies. He'd seen a burned-out wreck and been told his wife and daughter were inside. Told by men he'd trusted. Men who worked for the same government that had trained him to lie convincingly. Mia reached into her purse and pulled out contact lenses, popping them out to reveal brown eyes. Familiar brown eyes. Derek's eyes. Then she rolled up her sleeve, showing a crescent-shaped birthmark on her shoulder. The same birthmark he'd kissed goodnight for 16 years before losing her forever. The scar on my left knee from when I fell off my bike when I was 10. The way I still count on my fingers when I think no one's looking. The song you used to sing when I had nightmares. She began humming softly, a melody Derek hadn't heard in 5 years, a melody that had died with his daughter. Except she hadn't died. She was sitting in his trailer kitchen, 21 years old and very much alive. Ashley? The name came out, broken, hopeful, terrified. Derek's hands shook as he reached across the table to touch her face. Real, warm, alive. Oh my God. Ashley. She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. Hi, Dad. The words he'd thought he'd never hear again. The voice he'd dreamed about every night for 5 years. His daughter. Alive. Here. In his trailer in Cedar Falls, Iowa, sitting at his kitchen table like a miracle made flesh. Derek pulled her into his arms, holding her tight enough to convince himself she was real. She felt different. Taller, thinner, harder, but she still fit against his shoulder the way she had as a child. I thought you were dead. The words came out muffled against her hair. I thought I'd lost you forever. Ashley held him just as tightly, 5 years of grief and guilt and desperate love pouring out in a single embrace. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Dad. I wanted to call, wanted to find you, but Vincent said he'd kill you and Lucas if I tried. Vincent Torino, the man who'd destroyed Derek's life and stolen his daughter. Derek pulled back to look at Ashley's face, memorizing the changes 5 years had made. Tell me everything. Ashley wiped her eyes and composed herself with the kind of control that spoke of hard-won experience. The night of the accident, Mom and I had a fight. Something stupid about a boy I was dating. I was staying at Rachel Chen's house when it happened. Derek remembered the fight, remembered Ashley storming out, slamming doors, teenage drama that had seemed so important at the time. Vincent arranged the accident, made it look like Mom and I were both in the car. He needed you broken, defeated, out of the picture. The calculated cruelty of it took Derek's breath away. Why? Because of Anthony Torino, Vincent's brother, the one you sent to federal prison 15 years ago. Derek remembered Anthony. Child predator, killer, monster in an expensive suit. One of Derek's proudest arrests. Anthony died in prison 3 months after his conviction, murdered by other inmates who didn't appreciate his particular hobbies. Ashley's voice carried the weight of researched facts. Vincent blamed you. He's been planning his revenge ever since. 15 years of planning. 15 years of waiting for the perfect moment to destroy Patrick Murphy completely. And he'd succeeded beyond his wildest dreams. After the fake funeral, Vincent found me. Told me you'd disappeared, probably drinking yourself to death somewhere. Said if I ever tried to contact you, he'd hunt you down and kill you slowly. Ashley's voice remained steady, but Derek could see the toll those words had taken. 5 years of believing her father had abandoned her to grief and alcohol. 5 years of thinking she was truly alone in the world. So I became Mia Reeves. Vincent kept me close, used me to manage his books, his accounts. I knew every dollar, every operation, every dirty secret. Derek studied his daughter's face, seeing the woman she'd become in Vincent Torino's shadow. And the 20 million? Ashley's smile held no warmth. I didn't steal it, Dad. I earned it. 20% of everything I helped him make over 5 years. Blood money, but mine by right. When I finally gathered enough evidence to bring him down, I transferred what was mine to a secure account. Evidence. Derek's training reasserted itself. What kind of evidence? Ashley pulled a flash drive from her pocket. Bank records, murder contracts, drug shipment routes, blackmail files, everything federal prosecutors need to put Vincent away forever. Why now? Why reveal yourself? Derek had to know. Had to understand why she'd risked everything to approach him. Ashley looked toward Lucas's bedroom, her expression softening. Because Vincent got suspicious yesterday. Started asking questions about Mia's background. He was getting close to the truth. She turned back to Derek. And because I was tired of watching my father from a distance, tired of seeing you broken and thinking I was dead, tired of living a lie. The weight of 5 years pressed down on them both. 5 years of unnecessary grief, wasted time, stolen moments they could never recover. Car doors slammed outside in the darkness. Derek's head snapped up, every instinct screaming danger. Through the window, he could see black SUVs surrounding the trailer. Men in dark suits emerged, their hands inside their jackets. Professional killers come to collect their debts. They found us. Ashley's voice was steady, but Derek could see the fear in her eyes. He moved to the window, counting targets and calculating odds. 8 men, all armed. Lucas was asleep in his bedroom, innocent and vulnerable. Derek's world narrowed to a single imperative: protect his family, both his children. "Daddy!" Lucas's voice called from his room, completely unaware of the danger surrounding them. "Can Ashley come play with me tomorrow?" Ashley. Somehow, even in sleep, Lucas had recognized his sister. 5 years hadn't erased the bond between them. Ashley stared at Derek in wonder. "He remembers me." Derek nodded, his throat tight with emotion. "He never forgot. He still prays for you every night, calls you his guardian angel." The weight of those lost years settled over them like a shroud. All the birthdays missed, the bedtime stories unread, the simple moments of family life stolen by Vincent Torino's calculated revenge. Derek grabbed his phone and dialed 911. Deadline, signal jammer, professional work. He looked at Ashley, decision crystallizing. "Back door, now!" She shook her head firmly. "I'm not leaving you again." Derek grabbed her shoulders, meeting her eyes directly. "You have evidence that can end this. If something happens to me, Lucas needs his sister." The logic was unassailable, but Ashley's loyalty ran deeper than logic. She'd lost her father once. She wouldn't lose him again, not when they'd just found each other, not when their family was finally whole again. "Mr. Stone!" The voice boomed from outside, carrying Vincent Torino's unmistakable Chicago accent. "Time for a family reunion." Derek's blood ran cold. Vincent himself had come to Iowa. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about completing a 15-year-old revenge fantasy. Derek looked at Ashley, seeing the recognition in her eyes. "The federal prosecutors, how do we contact them?" Ashley pulled out her phone, showing him an unread message that said, "Package ready for delivery. Agent Catherine Rodriguez has been waiting for my signal for 3 years." Derek knew Rodriguez. Good agent. Honest. If she was still alive. "Send it." Ashley hesitated, her finger hovering over the send button. "Once I do this, there's no going back. Vincent will know I betrayed him completely." Derek smiled grimly. "Good. Time he learned what happens when you threaten a Stone family." Ashley hit send, then powered down her phone. Outside, Vincent's voice rose to a shout. "You got 30 seconds, Stone! Then we start shooting!" Derek opened the front door, hands visible, but ready. He stepped onto his small porch, feeling like a gunfighter walking into the street at high noon. Except this wasn't the Old West, and there were no rules here. Vincent Torino stood in the gravel parking lot like a conquering general. Mid-50s, silver hair perfectly styled, expensive suit that couldn't hide the predator underneath. The 3 men from the diner flanked him, plus 5 more professionals Derek didn't recognize. All armed, all focused on him. "Vincent." Derek's voice carried no emotion, just acknowledgement. "Patrick." Vincent's smile was all teeth and malice. Or do you prefer Derek these days? Amazing what people can convince themselves to believe. The name Patrick felt strange in his mouth after 5 years of being Derek Stone, but some identities ran deeper than names. "My daughter." I want to see her. Vincent gestured magnanimously. Of course, family reunions are so touching. Ashley emerged from the trailer, the flash drive still in her hand. Vincent's expression darkened as he saw it. Hello, Uncle Vincent. Her voice carried steel that hadn't been there at 16. 5 years in Vincent's world had hardened her, made her dangerous in ways Derek was still learning to appreciate. Disappointed in you, sweetheart. Truly disappointed. Vincent's voice carried the weight of genuine hurt. 5 years I treated you like family, gave you purpose, money, protection, and this is how you repay me. Derek stepped protectively in front of Ashley. Every protective instinct he'd ever felt focused on the man who'd stolen his daughter and twisted her into a weapon. She repaid you exactly what you deserved. Vincent laughed, the sound echoing off the trailer park's dark windows. And what's that, Patrick? Derek's smile held no mercy. Justice. The word hung in the air like a challenge. Vincent's laughter died. Justice. You killed my brother, sent him to die in federal prison, left me to rebuild everything from nothing. Derek felt no sympathy. Your brother was a child killer, Vincent. He deserved worse than prison. He deserved family loyalty. Vincent's composure finally cracked completely. Something you wouldn't understand, apparently, since you abandoned your own daughter. The accusation hit home because it felt true. Derek had believed the lies, accepted the evidence, buried his family, and disappeared into a bottle. He'd failed them when they needed him most. I thought she was dead, because of you. Vincent's smile returned, colder than Iowa winter. Because I gave you a taste of loss. Now you know how it feels. He gestured to his men. But don't worry, Patrick. This time, the loss will be real. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Lots of them. Vincent's face hardened as he processed the implications. You called the FBI. Derek shook his head. Actually, they've been waiting for this moment for 3 years. Agent Catherine Rodriguez emerged from behind the SUVs with 20 federal agents, weapons drawn and ready. Hello, Patrick. Catherine. Been a while. Derek nodded, relief flooding through him. Not long enough. Rodriguez smiled grimly. Vincent Torino, you're under arrest for racketeering, money laundering, murder, and kidnapping. She looked at Ashley with professional respect. Hell of a job, kid. 3 years undercover. That's dedication. Vincent stared at Ashley with dawning comprehension. 3 years? You've been feeding them information for 3 years? Ashley held up the flash drive. Everything, Uncle Vincent. Every crime, every victim, every dirty dollar. The FBI has enough evidence to bury your entire organization. Vincent's face went purple with rage. He reached for his gun, but Derek was already moving. 15 years of federal training and 5 years of suppressed violence exploded outward. The fight lasted exactly 7 seconds. When the dust settled, Vincent Torino lay unconscious in the gravel, and Derek stood over him breathing hard but unhurt. The scarred man from the diner stared at Derek with something approaching awe. Holy shit! The stories about Patrick Murphy are all true! Rodriguez cuffed Vincent personally, her smile grim with satisfaction. Every single one, Sal. Ladies and gentlemen, you just got taken down by the most decorated undercover agent in FBI history. Derek looked around at the faces staring at him with new understanding. Derek Stone, the mechanic, had died tonight. Patrick Murphy had returned, whether he wanted to or not. Some transformations couldn't be undone. Some identities ran too deep for burial. Lucas appeared in the trailer doorway, rubbing his eyes and looking confused. Daddy? What's happening? Are you really a secret agent? Derek knelt down and pulled his son into a fierce embrace. Something like that, buddy. Lucas looked at Ashley with wonder. And you're really my sister, Ashley? The one I pray for. Ashley knelt beside Derek, completing the circle. I'm really your sister, and you don't have to pray for me anymore. I'm right here. Lucas threw his arms around both of them, his small body warm and solid and real. The family Derek thought he'd lost forever was whole again. Rodriguez approached as her team finished securing the scene. Patrick, we need to talk about your situation. Derek stood, keeping one arm around Lucas. My cover's blown. I know. Rodriguez shook her head. Actually, as far as Cedar Falls is concerned, you're still Derek Stone, mechanic. The Bureau would like to keep it that way. Vincent's organization was bigger than we thought. We might need you to stay in place. The offer surprised him. Go back to being Derek Stone, but with federal backing and his daughter safe. Continue the life he'd built in Iowa, but without the weight of lies. What do you think? Derek looked at Ashley, then down at Lucas. Like living in Cedar Falls? Lucas nodded enthusiastically. I like my school. And now Ashley can go to college here. Ashley hesitated. Actually, I never finished high school. Been kind of busy the last 5 years. Derek smiled. GED first, then college. You're 21 now. Plenty of time to figure out what you want to be. Ashley looked around at the trailer park, the federal agents, the remains of Vincent's empire. What if I don't know who Ashley Stone really is anymore? I've been playing roles for so long. Lucas took her hand with the absolute confidence of childhood. You're my sister. That's a good start. Ashley squeezed his small fingers, tears starting again. Yeah, it's a perfect start. Rodriguez left them alone as her team finished processing the scene. Derek sat on his trailer steps between his children, watching the last FBI van disappear into the Iowa night. The ordinariness of it struck him. After 15 years of violence and 5 years of hiding, his life had exploded and reformed in the space of a single evening. But here they were, sitting on trailer steps under a carpet of stars, just a family again. Dad? Ashley's voice was small in the darkness. I missed this. Just sitting. Being normal. Derek understood completely. We'll have a lot of sitting time now. Lucas leaned against his arm, already half asleep despite the excitement. Are we going to tell everyone Ashley's my sister? Derek looked at Ashley in the dim light. What do you want? She was quiet for a long moment, thinking. I want to be Ashley Stone again. I want to figure out what I like, what I want to do with my life. I want Saturday morning pancakes and arguments about chores. Derek smiled. All of that comes with the territory. Good. I've missed arguing about chores. Lucas giggled sleepily. Ashley's weird. Derek ruffled his son's hair. All sisters are weird. It's in the sister handbook. Lucas's eyes widened. There's a sister handbook? Ashley joined the game with perfect timing. First rule of sister handbook is you don't talk about the sister handbook. Lucas looked confused, then started laughing as Derek and Ashley burst into laughter. The sound echoed across the trailer park, carrying 5 years of grief and joy and desperate love into the Iowa night. Some sounds were worth waiting for. Some reunions were worth any price. Later, after Lucas had been tucked into bed and Ashley had claimed the couch, Derek stood in his small kitchen making coffee and processing the day's revelations. His daughter was alive. Vincent Torino was in federal custody. The life he'd built as Derek Stone could continue, but now with truth instead of lies as its foundation. Through the thin trailer walls, he could hear Ashley moving around, settling into a space that had never been meant for 3 people, but somehow felt exactly right. Family had a way of filling whatever space it was given. His phone buzzed with the text from Rodriguez. Torino's talking. Trying to cut a deal? Won't work. Your daughter's evidence is ironclad. Sleep well, Patrick. You earned it. Derek smiled and deleted the message. Tomorrow would bring federal debriefings and paperwork, and all the complications of officially existing again. Tonight was for family, for sitting on trailer steps and listening to his children breathe safely in their beds, for remembering what he'd been fighting for all along, even when he'd forgotten he was still fighting. At Maple Creek Diner 6 months later, Derek Stone sat at table 7 with his family, reading the newspaper over coffee that tasted like the best coffee in the world. Ashley was enrolled at Iowa State, majoring in criminal justice with a minor in accounting. Lucas was stealing bacon from her plate while explaining the finer points of third-grade baseball strategy. Normal family chaos, the kind Derek had thought he'd lost forever. Jenny the waitress stopped by their table, coffee pot in hand, and a smile that had grown genuine over the months. "Morning, Derek. Ashley? Lucas?" "The usual." Derek nodded, folding his newspaper. The headline read, "Torino crime family dismantled. Life sentences for all. Justice finally served." Ashley caught his eye over Lucas's head and smiled. "Think we'll ever get bored with normal?" Derek considered the question seriously. After 15 years of federal service and 5 years of hiding, normal felt like the greatest luxury imaginable. "I hope so." Ashley laughed, the sound younger and lighter than anything he'd heard from her in months. "Me too." Lucas finished his stolen bacon and grinned at both of them. "I like normal. Normal's good." Outside the diner windows, Cedar Falls woke slowly to another ordinary Saturday morning. Derek Stone watched the familiar rhythms of small-town life and felt something he'd almost forgotten how to feel. Peace. Not the peace of hiding or running or pretending to be someone else. The peace of being exactly who he was, where he belonged, with the people who mattered most. Sometimes the most radical thing a man could do wasn't fight or hide or scheme for revenge. Sometimes the most radical thing was simply choosing to be real, to live authentically, to protect what mattered, and let everything else fall away like yesterday's newspaper. The bell above the diner door chimed as new customers entered, and Derek Stone smiled at his children across table 7, exactly where he belonged.